So good morning, Racho. Happy to have you here. There are a couple of questions maybe you can answer in this context. The first would be, what do you think what the role of the courts in general were in terms of Seyfo, during Seyfo as a contemporary action?
In Seyfo, I think all the speakers in the last 2 days, 2.5 days, have expressed that there was participation of Kurds. I'm not saying anything new, okay? The question is the role of, to what extent? Well, it was to a large extent Kurds actually massacred Assyrians. But at the same time, I have read stories of people saying that it was their Kurdish neighbor that helped them. For example, 3 years ago, Musafa, who was about 104 years old, he gave a testimonial about his experiences in Seyfo. Two things I've taken from that. One is that the Seyfo anxiety and the memories were still with him after 97 years still. But the second thing is that the role of the Kurds was very complex. Yes, they were attacked by Kurds. He was from the Upper Kafro village, but then he said it was his neighbor actually saved his lives and his family's life. He was only a little boy, but he remembered that. So the role of the Kurds is definitely, like many other Muslim groups within the Ottoman Empire, they participated. You can't hide from that. And the second thing is, but at the same time, they were righteous Muslims who, despite the danger to their own life, they did help people. Otherwise, there will be very few survivors. So there are a few more survivors because of this courageous act. So the role is ambivalent and we have to accept it. Why they did that? Well, I think there was a lot of discussion about religion, but I think they were partly, and yesterday there was very interesting discussion, sometimes the motivation was economic. So economic motivation. You kill your neighbor and take your land and take his land, and there were quite a few rich, especially I was told yesterday in Mardin, for example, if not in the villages, in Mardin there were very wealthy people. So people attacked, they were motivated not so much about religion, but economic, much basic economic needs than religion, rather than ideology, but more pragmatic. I want land, I want the wealth they have. Today is perhaps it's a slightly different approach by the Kurds.
Yeah, the question here would be, what should Syria Christians expect from Kurds today in terms of recognition, reconciliation? How would you see the role of the Kurds today?
Well, the Kurdish leadership seem to make the right noises, okay? So I hear some encouraging comments. And I think many years ago there was a Kurdish parliament in exile. I think it was maybe about 15 years ago. From then on it started discussing that recognition of not just Seyfo but Armenian genocide as well. Now, whether or not this is a truthful and honest approach, I don't know. But the reality is Kurds are discussing the Seyfo more than the Turks.
That's true.
The difference is perhaps because Kurds, through their oral tradition, have maintained the stories of it and they told their children, so they know. I spoke to a couple of people in the conference where they said that once you go outside Ankara and you meet both Turks and Kurds, but outside those areas, especially Kurds in the kind of border areas, they actually, when you approach them, they openly discuss, whether it used to be taboo at least in Turkey after maybe up to 10 years ago. It's more of a taboo for Turks to discuss it. The Kurds know through their oral stories. And now, and I think there's some publications about oral stories of Kurds, where now we find out a little more information. It's a different narrative, as many people, distinguished callers explained, but we want that narrative as well, so to make a little bit more, to add to our knowledge of Seyfo. So we want more information from the Kurds. Now, they wouldn't have a lot of written records because it's more an oral culture, but we want more and more of that oral information from them.
So the third question Syria TV would like to know is, what do you think what is needed to be done in order to elevate the level of studies on Seyfo to let me say more scholarly or similar to this conference, of course, on a scholarly level? What needs to be done?
I think you know, Abdul Masih, what needs to be done. So, but I will articulate it as well. I think we need the Assyrian organizations to first put up funds to create some kind of institute, of research institute. It doesn't have to be about Seyfo only, but a research institute about Assyrian culture in general. In this last 2.5, 3 days, we talked about manuscripts in Syriac, which are multiple and in many places, and you need funds to get them. So we need a kind of two aspects. One, celebration of Assyrian culture, whether it's Western or Eastern, irrespective of that. And secondly, more understanding of around Seyfo. So we need funds. And also Assyrians need to lobby in where they are, academic institutions, to it's a bit difficult to create a chair for Seyfo, of course, but at least more chairs about Assyrian culture. And I'm not talking about Syriology, which there exists, but I'm talking about modern Assyrian culture, and starting the last 200, 300 years. Whether the institute is in Germany, whether the institute is in Sweden, is not that important to me, because in this digital age, communication is instant. Wherever it is, we can all get together and discuss issues. So, funds, institute, lobbying, and Assyrian organizations have to do it. I know many individuals do, such as yourself, on your own, but you need collective support.
Maybe a last question from my side. What kind of effort do you have currently on Syrian issues? I know that you have published a couple books, of course. Do you think to do more on this field?
Well, I was invited to go to Greece later in the year. I'm on my holidays in Greece anyway, and my Assyrian friends from Greece are going to talk about Seyfo in Greek. It's something that wasn't really done before, and I'll be quite looking forward to speak in Greek in this issue. Usually my talks are in English, of course, so it would be great for me to speak to a different audience, using a different language, probably using a different approach as well, because I'm not sure the level of knowledge of that. So that will be my next, and I think you've asked me to write something later on the year, so I'm looking forward to it. And I did talk to other people. They asked me to contribute to different publications, including in Turkish. So,
thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Thank you.